What happens when a narcissist encounters an authentic person? It's pretty simple. They'll be frustrated. They'll talk behind their back. They'll dislike them. They'll try and get other people to dislike them, but all in all, they'll avoid them. They'll just leave them alone. And so an authentic person does not have to deal with a narcissist, because the narcissist recognizes really quickly, yeah, it's not going to work on this one. I don't like this person. And so they stay away from them. So then it becomes, okay, well, if I have narcissists in my life, must mean I'm not in my authenticity. Well, yeah, that's called being human and limited and perfectly imperfect. Authenticity is something that gets taken from all of us in childhood. It's something we all have to recapture, and that's what the authentic person knows. And so that's the key distinction, is the authentic person has recognized, I'm perfectly imperfect. My childhood, although probably had wonderful moments, had some problems, and they're showing up in my life. And so they've worked with professionals like myself. They don't see any shame in it. They recognize it's just personal growth and looking at ourselves and discovering who we are and our idiosyncrasies and the way we sabotage ourselves and the way we go against ourselves and mistakes we made, how to make peace with them. That's just part of life. It doesn't make us bad or worthless or somehow less than because I need help from a professional. They actually, all they care about is attaching to their authentic self. And so they are doing the work. It's not just a one-time thing. They don't look to read a single book or take a single class or book a single session. It's something it's part of their lifelong journey. They know that they're going to have to do these things so that they can live in their authenticity. And when they do that, what they learn how to do to live in their authentic self are several key things. They know what their morals and values are. They recognize that almost all of us we think we know our morals and values, but we're actually just living by the morals and values that were forced onto us by our caregivers. That actually I need to go discover, are those mine? Are those really authentic to me? They challenge what they were taught in childhood. They go investigate it and make sure, is this really mine? Or am I living out somebody else's dream and fantasy and desire? They go learn the difference between a need and a want, so they know, because wants are things that bring us joy, needs are things we need to survive. And the inauthentic person, the person detached from their authenticity, they pursue their wants. They go on vacations, they buy fancy cars, they buy a bigger house, but that puts their needs in jeopardy. Now they can't pay the light bill, they can't pay for certain medical care or have enough clothing, whatever. So the authentic person goes, that's why they work with a professional. They learn how to do that. They learn that, or they recognize that all of us are codependent, that it's a scale. There's the typical codependent people think about, which is the people pleaser, the clingy and needy, a lot of people see them as less than. They're not, but people will, really look down on this side of the codependent scale. But because they worked with a professional, they realize, oh my God, there's a whole nother side to codependence, the falsely empowered. These people look just like a narcissist. These actually, the most successful people on the planet, if they're not a narcissist, they're falsely empowered codependents. The authentic person knows that the people we hold in the highest esteem are filled with shame. The reason they got so much success is because of their childhood trauma, that the shame that they experienced in childhood, they use to fuel them, that their worth comes from outside themselves. Well, the authentic person recognizes, I don't need to do, I don't need to become anything. I already am. Just the fact that I was born, I have value and worth. Doesn't matter what my career is, doesn't matter how big my house is, or what car, trophy husband, wife, none of that matters. An authentic person knows at all times, I have value and worth. It has nothing to do with anything outside of me. I just am. It just is. It's in all of us. And by working with a professional, they've learned that's something that they always have. They are always worthy, and so they can, when they have moments of grandiosity or false empowerment where they think they're better than, like the so-called successful people do, they're able to pull themselves back down into what's called maturity and moderation. They know what that is. They go, oh, there I go again. Let's come on back down here. But also when they experience shame and less than feelings, they're able to pull themselves up and just, they're constantly in this regulation mode of recognizing when I get falsely empowered and better than, or when I get disempowered and less than, and they can moderate themselves into maturity, hold on to their inherent value and worth. And that's why the narcissist leaves them alone. Because the narcissist attacks a person who's detached from their authentic value and worth. That's exactly what they're looking for. And when they find out, oh, this person has it, I can't take it from them to feed myself because I'm detached from my value and worth. And that's why I have to belittle and have power and do all these things, because their childhood was so made them, they were so abandoned, neglected, they feel so insignificant, they need to come over top of everyone and everything. When they recognize the authentic person won't allow that to happen, because they've learned about codependence recovery. They can set boundaries. They can say no to people. They won't have to people please. They can share their truth and their reality without the fear of rejection or judgment, because they recognize no one ever rejects me. It's just like pizza. Like, think of it. When you order pizza, you have certain toppings you like. Maybe for you it's, I don't know, pepperoni, mushroom, and green pepper. Well, your partner likes sausage, black olive, and pineapple. Does that make them a bad person? Would you kick them out of the house? No, you just go, huh, they like something different. Isn't that interesting? It's not a rejection of me that they don't like my pizza and what the toppings I have on it. Well, that's all of us are. We're all pizza. We have certain toppings. We have characteristics and looks. We all look different. And so you can think of our personality and our physical looks like toppings on a pizza. And somebody goes, oh, perfect. I love those toppings. Another person goes, nah, not for me. So they're not rejecting me. They're just going, huh, I like this pizza better. That's what the authentic person does. And so that's why the authentic person doesn't need to fall into the narcissist traps of seduction and belittling and gaslighting. They'll just go, that's an interesting perspective. Tell me more about that. Well, how'd you come to that? And the narcissist is like, what? This didn't work. This is supposed to hurt you. Well, no, you're just telling me about you and what you like. I find that fascinating. They can stay contained in their maturity and moderation and recognize that even a narcissist is allowed their own reality. They can look at the world from any perspective they want. I don't need to change it. I don't need to do anything with it. I don't need to correct it. I can just learn about it. Wow, that's a fascinating way of looking at the world. Tell me more. Well, as you know, that is not the answer the narcissist wants to hear. So basically, the authentic person is okay with not everything being okay. They can navigate the ups and downs of life. They can navigate another person's personality, another person's likes and dislikes, their pizza toppings, and just see it as interesting. They don't have to have life or another person behave in a certain way. If they recognize, yeah, the pizza toppings that person has, meaning their behavior and their characteristics, aren't to my liking, they don't try and change it. They don't argue with it. They don't belittle it and try and do anything about it. They just go, yeah, that doesn't work for me, so I'm going to go over here. Well, that's the antithesis of what the narcissist is looking for. And when we're detached from our authenticity, we get sucked into that, wanting to prove our point, wanting them to see who we are, wanting them to recognize all of this, and that's because of our own codependence and our own struggle. The other thing about the authentic person is they can accept criticism and feedback without losing attachment to their inherent value and worth. In fact, the authentic person seeks out criticism and feedback. Because what do they want? They want to get better. They want to learn. They want to know about themselves. And so that's another reason the narcissist it's just flummoxed by him, can't stand him. Because the person detached from their authenticity, needs you to see who I am, needs you to think differently. Because their value and worth was taken from them in childhood. And so they're codependent. That's what codependence is, that's why people are attracting narcissists. They're detached from their authenticity and their inherent value and worth. And so they need, when they get that criticism and feedback, they want to fight it. They want to correct them, make them see it. It's like, no. So a narcissist can attack the authentic person. They'll consider and go, wow, you know what? On that piece, you're right. I hadn't noticed that. Thanks for bringing that up. The other thing, that's just not my reality. I hear that's how, you may be experiencing me, but yeah, that doesn't hold true for me. And the narcissist will double down and really try and get them. Like, yeah, I appreciate, your suggestions. I'll go off and think about it, but yeah, that's just not true for me. They can stay regular. They don't get sucked into the narcissistic game. Because an authentic person doesn't need to be right. They love to be wrong. Because do you see what happens if you need to be right, whether you're a narcissist or any, a person detached from their authenticity? If you need to be right, that means connection and relationship isn't possible. Because what happens when two people need to be right? We've all been in those situations. It's a race to the victim position, right? Because if you don't believe I'm right, that means you're against me, you're hurting me. And so I won't listen to you and I won't accept your point or your truth until you validate mine. No, you have to what are arguments with a narcissist? Just victim fights. No, what you did is worse. Don't you see? Just fighting for, who is the bigger professional victim? Well, the person in touch with their authenticity actually loves to be wrong, because what happens when you have two people who are authentic, who are okay with everything not being okay, who love criticism and feedback? They'd say, wow, tell me more. You know what, you're right, I see that now. Wow, I really tried hard not to do that, but now that you pointed out, I was wrong. Tell me more of the ways what did you see? What did I say? Oh my God, that's amazing. I've never seen that in myself. Do you see what's happening? Connection. Because the other person's giving the feedback, pointing out where they're wrong. This person's accepting it, actually encouraging them. How does that feel when you sit across from somebody who doesn't play the victim and race to the bottom and blame you? You feel connected. The authentic person loves to be wrong, loves criticism and feedback. It's an opening for relationship and connection. The person who can't stand to be wrong, who has to be right, who can't handle criticism and feedback, that's a person detached, stuck in codependence, stuck in the pain from the past, not attached to their inherent value and worth. And so it's contingent upon you accepting their reality, their version of the truth. Well, now whenever you have two inauthentic people, what you have, whether they're a narcissist or not, what you have is two children arguing over tonka trucks, doing the best they can. But, you have to think of it. You watch children fight. They can't solve a problem. They don't have the emotional skills to navigate it, to listen, to hear, to self-reflect. Their brain isn't developed enough. Well, that's what happens to all of us. The authentic person knows that. They recognize, oh, that's right. That's why every TV commercial and sitcom and movie, they're all designed for the emotional age between 4th and 7th grade, because we're all stuck emotionally in that, kind of 6 to 12 years old. That's all of us. Not because we're bad, but we just haven't taught how to be authentic, how to deal with our emotions, how to navigate and live in our maturity and moderation. And so when a disagreement happens, or criticism or feedback or whatever, we drop right back into childhood. and we argue and try and settle fights from that place. Well, the authentic person doesn't need to do that. They just go, fascinating. That's one way of looking at it. Yeah. Can you tell me more about what it was in your life that, brought you to that conclusion? Because my life experience is different, so I don't see it that way, but it doesn't mean my way is right. I'm curious what, maybe there's something I'm missing, so tell me more. That's what the authentic person does. So ultimately, the key distinction between the narcissist and the authentic person, and what happens when the narcissist encounters the authentic person, is the attachment to their inherent value and worth. Now, the authentic person has made a commitment to working with professionals like myself, and it doesn't have to be me. Like, there are so many great teachers out there, so many great books, so many great classes. Take them all. Like, you can learn from all of them. There's in every coach or therapist or all the people online teaching this stuff, every person has like me, there's so many teachers I learned from. And most of the time you're like, yeah, I've heard this. And then they'd say a sentence, and they'd say it in a way, they'd describe a dynamic completely different than you've ever heard it, and it just clicked. It's like, oh, I get it. I see what you're saying. That's the value of watching tons of different teachers and working with different professionals, reading different professionals' books. Now, I don't know that this may or may not be true, but I've written a book on how to reclaim your authenticity. I'm not going to promote it. If you care about it, you'll research my stuff and you'll find it. I don't want to make this a sales pitch. Well, that's not true. That's not authentic. I'd like you to read it. Yeah, I think it's valuable. But if you don't read it, it's okay. I don't need you to read it. Is that true? I would say the hurt child inside of me needs you to read it. Yeah, the little kid in me. The mature and adult parent that I had to learn how to be to take care of that little guy inside of me, he doesn't need you to read it. But the hurt little boy inside of me, he really needs you to read it. So take that for what you will. That's one other thing. I forgot to say that. And this may sound a little grandiose. I have to be careful because of what just happened, the experience I just had. But a person who's in touch with their authenticity has no issue with you knowing about their perfect imperfections or showing you moments when they drop into their childhood. Because remember, they're in touch with their inherent value and worth. They don't need to be better than, or they don't see that when they drop into their childhood, they're less than. And then when they share it, they don't, they do their best not to go better than. Like, that's what I'm really trying to do. Because I'm like, man, how do I share all this? I'm trying to be authentic here, but everything that's coming into my head of how to explain this, I'm like, ooh, that's a little better than. That's a little less than. And so I'm doing the best I can to try and moderate myself as I share all of this. I'm not perfect at it. I'm still working on it. And so if you'd like to learn how to work on it, as far as I know, I haven't seen anybody write a book on how all of this works and how to reclaim your authenticity. If that matters to you, it's called Your Journey to Being Yourself. If my pizza toppings and the way I've described all of that isn't your pizza, well, then good for you. Go find other pizza, another teacher with pizza toppings that you like. I think that would be amazing. That's ultimately the adult, mature, moderate person inside of myself. And the kid too. The kid really wants you to focus on healing and growing because he thinks it's important. The adult in me sees it's important, but will accept and love you even if you don't see it as important. That you'll make the best decision for you. And if you don't think that's important to you, well, good for you. Well, that's your moral and value, and I support you walking in what works best for you. So, anyway, leave your comments. I hope this helped you, and I hope you have a great day.